DJ Akademiks is a cancer to the rap space. He is single-handedly the worst thing that has ever happened to the online hip-hop community. Him being the number one guy in online rap content is insane because he's not a hip-hop journalist. He's not a hip-hop head who just cares so much about the music. He's a drama slop channel. He's the Keemstar of the hip-hop world. Yeah, you fat back, wide body, wide as you are tall bitch. DJ Akademiks is a hoe who sits behind the camera and talks shit all day while getting drunk. That's what he does. Instigating beef between people, talking shit about everybody. He doesn't talk about the music. You're not going to see him breaking down music. You're going to see him talking about the numbers and this and that, and he's going to be dissing people, but he's not going to talk about the music. He's not going to break down lyrics. He's not going to talk about the production. He's going to talk about drama. That's all he knows how to do. Instigate drama and beef with women. That's all he knows how to do. He's got veins in his neck popping out when he's talking about Young Miami. He's spitting on the camera when he's talking about SZA. But when Vic Mensa pressed him in person and called him a bitch, he sat there and took it like a good bitch because that's what he is. He's a dick sucker. He's a glazer. His own man's Drake don't even fuck with him. Drake won't give him a sliver of real content despite 15 years of bouncing on his dick. Akademiks is a pure cancer to the rap space. And honestly, it's to a point like he just doesn't care. He just doesn't care about the art. And it really pisses me off. Because there are so many content creators who actually care about hip hop, actually care about the content. And then you got this clown bringing in all this money off of it. Like, it's to a point like, bro, it's on site if I see Akademiks. I'm not going to lie, it's on site. Like, if I see him, I'm putting hands, feet, whatever. We can do whatever. We can knuckle up. We can do a boxing match. We can do MMA. We can do whatever. I'm cool. We can meet up and die, like Soulja Boy said. That's how I'm feeling about Akademiks. That was exciting, right? That got you excited. That got your blood pressure up. You maybe sat up in your chair, grabbed your... Hold on, you might have paused it in the middle of that rant. Got something to eat, sat down, got comfortable again, press play. Like, you probably, maybe that made you want to ride and say, yeah, F Akademiks. He's right. I've been waiting on somebody to talk to Akademiks like that. I've been waiting on somebody to call Akademiks like that. Or maybe you're an Akademiks fan. Maybe you heard the things that I was saying and that made you upset. And you were ready to leave mean comments. Maybe you were ready to clip the video and send it to Akademiks. Look at this guy talking about you. You DM him. Look at him talking about you. You're ready to post it on your clip channel. Oh my gosh, this guy called out Akademiks. What's Akademiks? You want Akademiks to respond and maybe say something about me, make fun of me. That's what you wanted, right? If you were an Akademiks fan hearing all that. Everybody loves beef. Human beings love beef. That is the number one way to promote anything, really. Conflict. People love conflict, whether it's verbal, whether it's physical. We all love conflict, and the numbers prove that. And especially in the rap space. People in the rap space love beef. We love drama. We love disses back and forth. We even like when people get beat up and get embarrassed. Some people even like when people lose their lives in this space. Beef just sells. And recently it's been a topic of conversation because beef sells so much that it's become a strategy when promoting a new project, a new album, some new music. It's a real tactic. People have been having these discussions when talking about Clips and Kendrick and Kanye. What I want to do in this video is ask the question of, is it okay? Is it right? Or why I think it might be okay in some cases and not okay in other cases? And is it all just clout chasing, or is some of it kind of justified? Now let's get into what I actually want to talk about. That intro was me just kind of proving my point, but Let God Sort 'Em Out really has been one of the most impactful albums of 2025 in rap, probably the most impactful album. It hasn't had the biggest numbers, but it still did good numbers, and everyone's been talking about this project. Everyone loves it. Everyone's been ranting and raving about it. The lyrics, they've been breaking them down. They've been judging this album in the discography of Clips themselves, maybe calling it their best album. People have been judging it within the other albums of 2025. I love the album. Everyone loves the album. But more than anything, though, what really stands out about this album was its rollout. It had an excellent rollout where pretty much everything that Clips did was going viral on the internet. Every interview they did, every story that came out from this album, whether it was the Kendrick situation where their album or where the verse was possibly banned by UMG, whatever it was, everything was hitting the timeline like crack, pun intended, when talking about Clips in their rollout a few months ago. But one thing in particular really stood out, and that was the seemingly random beef with Travis Scott. Almost out of nowhere on one of their rollout singles, So Be It, Pusha T on the final verse of the song sends a diss to Travis Scott. And it's pretty much unmistakably for Travis. Like, you can't really attribute that to anyone else. And it just kind of caught people off guard. You cried in front of me. You died in front of me. Calabasas took your bitch and your pride in front of me. Her utopia had moved right up the street, and her lip gloss was popping. She ain't need you to eat. The net gon' call it the way that they see it, but I got the video. I can share and AE it. They wouldn't believe it, but I can't unsee it. Lucky I ain't TMZ it. So be it, so be it. Pusha T said that he dissed Travis Scott because he doesn't really respect him and his lack of loyalty, and how he's very flip-floppy on a bunch of issues when it pertains to rappers, and he really just kind of sides with whoever's hotter in the issue and depending on what's going on. One of the incidents that he cited was when Travis Scott dropped Astroworld in the song Sicko Mode, when Travis and Kanye had been close pretty much his entire career at that point, and he allowed somebody like Drake to get on his song on his album and diss Kanye and literally detail the directions from Drake's house to Kanye's house. Another incident was one where he talked about Travis and Drake, where Travis and Drake had established themselves as pretty good friends over the years. And then when Travis is on stage at Rolling Loud before Future and Metro are about to drop their album, We Don't Trust You, which was kind of dissing Drake the whole album, he asked Future and Metro to play the song Like That, which Like That ended up being the song where Kendrick Lamar dissed Drake. So that was really weird. But the main instance in which Pusha T really started to grow some disdain for Travis Scott, at least according to him, was in 2023, when Pharrell and Travis seemed to be pretty close, and Travis came over and wanted to play some music for Pharrell from Utopia, his upcoming album at the time, and he ended up playing the song Meltdown for Pharrell. And so he played the song for him, everything goes well, but when the song comes out, Drake is on the song, which he did not play for Pharrell and Clips who were there, and Drake is dissing Pharrell. So he played a song for Pharrell that eventually went on to be released that actually had a diss towards Pharrell on it, which is really, really weird behavior. And if you know anything about Pusha T, you know he does not play about Pharrell. All of his beefs start because somebody did Pharrell wrong and Pusha T had to stick up for him. So it makes sense as to why Pusha T would hold a grudge against Travis and want to diss him in return for what he feels he did wrong to Pharrell. But where things get a little weird is that took place in 2023. Why did it take 2 years for Pusha T to finally say something or to make this public or to air out Travis Scott? Which led a lot of people to come to the conclusion that Pusha T's really only doing this for the clout chasing aspects of things, as he's going into a rollout and Travis Scott is a much bigger artist than Pusha T. To me, this is the perfect example of tightrope walking, beefing over a valid reason, and beefing just for clout, because if this story is true, then yeah, Travis Scott's really weird. If he really did preview a song where Pharrell would eventually be dissed on it by either not playing the diss because he already had the verse, or letting somebody get on it after previewing it for Pharrell and letting them diss him on that song, that's super weird. Like, Travis Scott is a weirdo if that's true. And he's a snake and he's everything else that Pusha T called him, because who does something like that? And so Pusha T is right for, kind of speaking out against that and calling Travis Scott out. Yet at the same time, it's very obvious that he kept this in the vault specifically for the album rollout. Because not only did it take 2 years for him to say something, but that verse where he's dissing Travis has nothing to do with that situation. He's not rapping about you doing Pharrell dirty and why you being weird and you're a snake, you're a traitor, you ain't got no loyalty. He's rapping about Travis Scott losing Kylie Jenner and crying about it and him having a video of it. That has absolutely nothing to do with the situation. But you know what that does do? It makes people talk. Because him having a video of Travis Scott crying is a crazy headline. That's a crazy headline to put in a news article. It's a crazy headline for a YouTube video. It's going to get people talking about the situation. Now, they're going to be talking about Travis and Pusha T and what actually happened. But at the end of the day, they're still going to be talking about this new Clips album coming out, because that is the context within this information has been shared. So this whole thing is like a truly perfect blend of clout chasing off of a much bigger artist, but also having a completely valid reason to beef. The first thing that I ask myself when I'm like trying to figure out, okay, how do I feel about this person using beef as a rollout or part of their rollout, I should say, is the beef real? Because if the beef is real and there's a real foundation there, what do I look like telling a rapper not to diss another rapper about some actual issues that they have? Because that's what rappers do. That's a major part of the genre. That is the foundation, or part of the foundation that hip hop was built off of. Rap beefs, dissing, back and forth. So like, that would be weird of me to be like, oh, well, you can't actually diss somebody that you actually have beef with. That would be a little strange in my opinion. So in the case of Pusha T and Travis Scott, you can clearly see that there's clout workings there. There's some little bit of clout chasing there. But at the end of the day, there actually is an issue between the two parties. So it's not like you can just be like, oh, well, you shouldn't diss him now because you're about to drop an album. Nah, he can diss him whenever he wants. There's actual smoke there. Where we get to indefensible territory, in my opinion, though, is when there's no real beef. When you're just trying to reach out and grab for anything. When you're just calling out somebody just because you know you have an album coming out. You didn't really have an issue with that person. You just found one, in your back pocket that you used as justification. Or when two rappers come together and kind of have like a fake beef collectively, that's really lame as well. Like, I love pro wrestling, and rap kind of is pro wrestling. There's a lot of similarities, but I hate when rap really is pro wrestling. Like, I love pro wrestling, but let's keep the two separate, especially because a large aspect of rap is, I'm keeping it real, keeping it 100. I'm a real one. I'm solid. I don't want to hear you do a fake beef and then y'all come out, a year later and y'all laugh. It wasn't that serious. Nah, let's not do that. The guys who seek out beef for promo are whack to me, like that 6ix9ine archetype. Even though I will say this, for as much as 6ix9ine really was like just beefing with anybody and everybody for the sake of promo, he did have some songs there that were hot outside of just him beefing with people. Like, his career wasn't solely based on the beef, but his career was elevated times 10 because of the beefs that he was involved in. So I will give him a little bit of credit. But that archetype of guy who's just always looking for an issue with somebody, that's also what Kanye's kind of been doing the last 5 years on Twitter now. Like, pretty much every time he has something coming up, some sort of release, he's beefing with people on Twitter, whether it's Jewish people, label executives, or Drake, which, I mean, he's kind of had beef with Drake on and off for like a decade at this point, so maybe that's a little bit more valid. But the stuff with Kendrick recently was really weird because he was Team Kendrick super hard when the beef first started between Drake and Kendrick. He was Kendrick, yo, Dot, I got you. Like, we all kind of forgot that, but we all remember it at the same time. Yo, Dot, I got you. Like, that was a weird moment. He was showing a lot of love to Kendrick. Oh, two Geminis. He was doing all that stuff. But as soon as Kendrick officially kind of won in the eyes of the people and was the hottest guy in music, all of a sudden now Kanye wants to beef with him and call him out because he saw that he had the sauce, and that made Kanye feel a way. He was feeling a bit envious, so that's what he had to do. A major portion of whether I believe beefing for rollout is okay in certain situations is how reliant are you on it? Because if you need to constantly shoot shots at other people in order to stay relevant, you need beef in order to have people speaking about you, then yeah, that ain't it. Like, you just aren't all that. You're not really that interesting as an artist. Like, somebody that we can point to, again, to bring him back up is 6ix9ine. 6ix9ine, after he came home from prison and did that IG live, after that was who he was. He was beefing for promo. He was calling out Lil Durk, King Von, and the Perkio Kid. Like, that was what 6ix9ine had to do in order to get attention on himself, because he just wasn't that interesting of a rapper. And it's kind of similar to how that Jacksonville scene, the Jacksonville drill scene, died off instantly after a few people died, a few people went to jail, and now the other artists are kind of scared to rap about beefs and stuff because they might go to jail. That scene died off instantly because those guys aren't intriguing as artists if they're not rapping about the beefs and the killings and all that stuff. Now, all that stuff in Jacksonville is very real, so they weren't just beefing for promo. Okay, that was real stuff. But my point is, those guys are only relevant if there's major beef in their music, and that is kind of what a lot of people have started to do. And that, if that's what you need to do in order to get people paying attention to you, if you have to start beefing, that is unethical rollout beefing. If you have to use the unethical rollout method, then you're probably just not that good as an artist, or you're just not very good at selling and promoting your product, because the beefing method, it works, it's effective, but it's very, very lazy. And for somebody like myself, as much as I do love music, I love a good rollout. That is one of my favorite aspects of music, a great rollout, outside of obviously just listening to and enjoying the music. But if an artist can get me interested in and engaged in and invested in music before it even gets here, that's really exciting to me. That's something that I really hold on to. I really like the idea of being sold new music or being sold a new product. Oh my gosh, this is coming out. It's going to be huge. It's going to be crazy. I think that the skill of being able to build a lot of anticipation is a great skill to have. Because for me personally, there's no better piece of entertainment than a piece of entertainment that I can fully immerse myself in and feel like I'm in a new universe. I feel like I'm in a fully fleshed out, fully thought out world, whether that's movie, TV, music, or anything in between. I love really feeling like I'm in an environment. Listening to music is great, but when you can make listening to music feel like an experience, that's when you're truly hitting new levels. Because when I listen to The Life of Pablo or I listen to an album like Donda, those albums feel like eras. They feel like moments. They feel like something that you really enter into outside of just listening to the music and enjoying it. It feels like a world was built with this project, and every time I listen to it, I go back into that world. I have distinct memories of Kanye in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium doing push-ups on the floor and, play off the grid. Like all that stuff is great stuff to me, and that environment is really, really cool, and I really, really cherish that when I listen to music. So for me personally, whenever I see somebody do a rollout and they're just lazily doing the unethical rollout beefing method, it low-key disgusts me, okay? Because I love a good rollout. One person that's heavily debated upon in this space back and forth is Kendrick Lamar, whether or not he used the Drake beef for rollout. And I don't really understand the arguments. I don't get it because, he clearly did. He dropped an album after he did a Super Bowl halftime performance. He went on a stadium tour. He was the hottest guy in music. Kendrick Lamar was already a superstar. Don't get me wrong. He didn't get a massive come up off this where nobody knew who he was. He was a nobody. And now he was already a world-renowned superstar. But there's no doubts that his career rose to extremely new heights that he had never seen before off of this beef. There's no denying that. And I'm not trying to blame Kendrick for it or criticize him for it or say he's wrong and he should. I'm not saying that, but it's just the truth. Kendrick and Drake have had beef for over a decade now. They've both sent subs back and forth for a very long time. So when this beef happened, we all knew it was coming. There was just going to have to be a moment where one of them pointed to the ground like Max Holloway and the other person stepped up and they threw down. We all knew that was coming. I want this to be clear, though. Both parties knew that this would be a huge deal. Yes, it was a big deal for Kendrick, but it would have been just as big of a deal for Drake, maybe even more of a big deal for Drake if he would have came into this huge battle and defeated Kendrick, the boogeyman, the savior of rap. If he would have defeated him as the pop guy, this would have been huge for Drake as well. So it's not like this was just a one-sided thing. In terms of popularity, obviously Drake is number one. He's higher than every other rapper, but it's not like Kendrick was just a nobody, somebody who just people had never heard of. He just kind of came out of nowhere and now he's a superstar. No, he was already a huge star as well. Now, if this would have been Ray Vaughn calling out, Drake and trying to battle him and trying to diss him and just desperately trying to get a response, then okay, you could have said, okay, this dude's clout chasing, get him out of here. But this was Kendrick Lamar we're talking about. This isn't some little dog. This isn't some random clout chaser. This is Kendrick. And I want this to be clear as well. This was a huge risk. This wasn't just a guarantee clout up for Kendrick. We all knew the beef would bring massive eyes, including Drake and Kendrick. But if Kendrick would have lost, he would have been seen as a loser by the entire world. And all that stuff that happened, Super Bowl halftime, stadium tour, album selling 500K or whatever, all that stuff, him being the hottest guy in music, that would not have happened if he would have lost. Especially if he would have lost to Drake. You think Drake would have let him just lose and just, hell no. Drake would have twist and turned his heel a million times. He would have been doing the woo walk all over Kendrick's grave if Drake would have actually won this battle. So, yes, Kendrick did get a whole bunch of stuff off of this beef, but that was him enjoying the fruits of his labor, in my opinion. What we really need to discuss, though, is the audience. For as much as beefing for promo might be a questionable move in a lot of people's eyes, we have to acknowledge the reason that it happens, and that's the audience. People love beef and drama. We love to see people go at it and compete. That is the biggest way to get people to pay attention to you. So for as much as we want to call out rappers for relying on beef, at the same time, we have to acknowledge that they do it for a reason. Beef has always been great for the audience, but nowadays, especially, the current internet climate has really focused on conflict between rappers. There are huge YouTube channels solely dedicated to rap beef, pretty much, which means that if you're a modern rapper, you have to understand the game and see that that's a massive portion of the game and that sometimes you might have to play into it if you want to remain relevant in the space. If there was no appetite for this stuff from the audience, then we wouldn't really see it happen as often. Somebody like Soulja Boy would have been an internet relic 15 years ago, but because of beefing, he gets to pop up every now and then and be relevant for 2 weeks or so. And we cultivated this environment as an audience, not just the rappers. Even if you want to go beyond the rappers and say, well, what about the labels? Because we've all heard these stories of labels trying to start beef between rappers, instigating beef between rappers, maybe even trying to start a fake beef between rappers. We've all heard these stories about these labels and the things that they do. And while these labels are super powerful, they can push things and push agendas and push people. We all know about the top labels, UMG, Sony, all that. While they are massively powerful, at the end of the day, they still have to sell their stuff to an audience. They have to sell it to us. We still have to buy this from them. It's not like they could just push it on us and it's, oh, well, we're just going to accept it. No, we have to actually take those things in. If the people don't like it, it's going to fail. So UMG can push all the buttons they want. They can do whatever they want. At the end of the day, they still have to sell it to an audience. So I want that to be remembered. The power is still with the people. Yeah, UMG and the other labels, they can play their games, but at the end of the day, the power is with the people. There is no UMG if there's nobody to sell it to, if there's nobody to buy the stuff from them, if there's nobody to consume. These labels don't exist without us. So yes, they have power, but at the end of the day, if the people aren't rocking with something, it's not going to succeed. People love to talk about industry plants all the time, and this artist is an industry plant. Look at them. And there are a lot of industry plants, don't get me wrong. But there's an even longer list of industry plants that failed because people didn't like them. You can push them all you want. You can give them all the money in the world. You can, put them with this artist, put them with that artist. But at the end of the day, if the people don't like it, the people don't like it. You need the people's approval. So even if these labels are purposefully pushing drill music and trying to push these, drama farming content things onto us, at the end of the day, we have to make it profitable. We are the ones that make it profitable, not them. Drill as a subgenre was birthed just because people love beefing. They love violence. They love when people are going back and forth. That's the only reason why drill is popular. Yet at the same time, we've seen drill completely rejuvenate scenes of rap all over the world. In the early 2010s, when people talked about Chicago, they were like, yeah, Chicago's kind of dead. Like, they got Kanye as their nationwide representative. But outside of that, like, what's really going on in the Chicago music scene? And then the drill popped off. And the city, boom, was out of there. That was the peak of, like, Chicago's influence on rap. Early 2010 Chicago was probably the most poppin' that it's ever going to be or ever has been. Because it was the center of all the beef, all the drama, and drill rap. When we talk about New York, in the late 2010s, early 2020s, people have been talking about how New York was dead as a rap scene for years at that point. People are like, oh man, where's the king of New York? What's going on in New York? New York used to be the Mecca. Where is everybody? Nicki's like the last person, Nicki and Cardi B. And then outside of that, I don't know, bro, it's looking kind of scary. And then New York drill popped off and boom, we got Pop Smoke. We got all these guys popping up and New York is lit again. New York is the Mecca again. When it comes to even the UK and London and all that stuff, people in America weren't really listening to UK rap like that until the drill popped off over there and people started listening to it. And now we have Central C as like the biggest UK representative crossover UK USA guy. And he's a drill rapper or presents himself as one. And some people have been like debating his gangsterness online. I don't really care about that. I'm just speaking on like what he presents as. He is a drill rapper and that's what's popping. When we're talking about these major cities in rap, we always talk about these cities historically. It's always like LA, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, Houston, maybe a few others, Philadelphia. Like we talk about those cities. But a few years ago, we were talking about Jacksonville, Florida. Nobody in the history of rap had ever talked about Jacksonville, Florida as a major player in the rap game in terms of cities. That's never been a thing. Until a few years ago when all that Who I Smoke, Foolio, Ace, all that stuff was popping off. That was the hottest city in rap. And why was it the hottest city in rap? Because of the drill stuff, because of the beef back and forth. But at the same time, as soon as that beefing and drill stuff kind of died down, those scenes died down. With Chicago, they died down. After all that stuff kind of stopped happening mid-2010s, late 2010s, that scene kind of died down. New York has kind of died down since the drill scene kind of died. Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville went from the number one city to, kind of irrelevant again. Because the beef died down. It's not super hot anymore. In conclusion, to me, the beefing for rollout thing is valid when there's real beef and they're not relying on it. As much as I don't want to see people like aggressively beefing in rap because it very quickly escalates to violence. Like, I don't think I have to give examples in order for you to realize that I'm not lying when I say that, but we just kind of have to accept it. It really is the reality of the genre that we enjoy and the genre that we love, especially nowadays. Because not only does, the beef bring attention, but the people really want to see it. They really want to see these guys go at it. So personally, I think it's valid when you do it within the confinements that I kind of have laid out throughout this video. And you stay within those boundaries, then it can be kind of cool. It can be okay. Because looking at this from the perspective of a rapper, I can empathize with them because, if you don't do the beefing, if you don't really play into that, somebody else will. And they might just mess around and take your spot. So I kind of get it, unfortunately. But if you made it this far, I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Make sure you let me know how you feel about the beefing for rollout, beefing for clout when you're about to drop something. But if you made it this far, I greatly, greatly appreciate you. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. It helps me out a ton. I go by the name of Pay. Peace.